Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm good. And how are you?
I'm doing great, Alhamdulillah. So, first of all, welcome to the club. To continue with this interview, tell us about yourself, about your education, where are you from, and your work experience and all.
Well, I did my master's in English literature from Punjab University,
All right.
and then a master's in Urdu literature from Punjab University.
So, you have both
Then I
degrees.
went abroad.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I did TESOL, that is teaching of English
Different
to
of
the
other languages.
students having the second language. Yeah,
Hmm.
from England, London Met.
Great.
So, as far as my work experience is concerned, I have been teaching in different universities in Pakistan,
Hmm.
in ComScience, in Gift University. And when I was abroad, I taught in Williams College while I was
Great.
studying in London Met. I taught
Great.
there. Some 16 years ago, I got married and decided to be a homemaker.
Hmm.
And I quitted my job some 13, 14 years ago
All right.
as an assistant professor in Gift University.
Hmm.
But no regrets as far as that is concerned, because I think home is a place where it is the most demanding one. And I don't call myself housewife, I call myself homemaker,
Hmm.
because it's like making a home. And
Hmm.
I practically started from the scratch. We couple started from the scratch as we broke the shackles of
Hmm.
having dowries and stuff, and we started off as practically
Hmm.
nothing and made a home out of it. So it was 14, 15 years of homemaking, but I kept in touch with kept on educating myself,
Hmm.
kept
Great.
on reading, kept on, I became a part with Chris Fell's Eyes Advantage,
Hmm.
not as a trainer, but as a learner. I
Hmm.
wanted to learn. I couldn't
Hmm.
give more time to that. With this COVID situation that occurred, uh, everything went online,
Hmm.
and I got involved with the studies of my kids. And this online thing sort of appealed to me more, and I had that urge that it will not disturb the passion of my life, that is my home, and it will also satisfy my first love, that is my tea soul, something that we learn how to do. And with the
Hmm.
association with Chris Fell's Eyes Advantage, I had a lot to give. I had been giving offhand coaching to friends and families, but then I sort of wanted to officially do it. There is a lot of things that are going on in the market
Hmm.
that have quite nothing to do with IELTS,
Hmm.
and kept on making the people go in circles, having the mediocre scores and couldn't get the edge of it.
Hmm.
That is simple common sense
All right.
that actually is required. So I think that particular thing, to save the students from that much of pain, agony, and disappointment that shatters their confidence, I thought, why not to come up and give them certain tips that will make that final difference in
Hmm.
their scores. Most of my people that came to me had 6.5 score repeatedly in different things,
Hmm.
although they were trying hard to have that point 0.5 done, but that point 0.5 was never happening, and that point 0.5 was the small silly mistakes that they were doing, or
Hmm.
of so much of information I know, and how to go about it in a simple clear cut manner.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that prompted me to do an online stuff, and that is, I'm not doing it just for the kids or something. Doing it for myself to
Hmm.
satisfy my urge of like teaching. I'm a born teacher, I think.
All right, that's great. Just as you said, you are a born teacher, you love teaching profession, but why did you select English and why did you go for TESOL?
Well, pretty much because I was interested in literature,
Hmm.
and that came from my dad. He was a scholarly figure in his own respect, and we had me and my dad had a very, very cordial and friendly relationship, and we had so many of discussions. I was familiar with Shakespeare when I was in 10th standard. I
Hmm.
was familiar with Bernard Shaw when I was like in first year, second year. So these were, and similarly on the other hand, I was familiar with Mirza Ghalib. I was familiar with Mir. I was familiar with Josh Mali Abadi. These were commonplace discussions and books around our home. So literature was something that was very close to like my heart. It came natural to me. Although I tried my hand in science as well. I did my FSc, I did my BSc, but that was because it was a cliche at that time that if you're a good student,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
should either be a doctor or an engineer, not intermediate sort of a situation. And I missed that medicine by like this much of inch.
Hmm.
Uh, at our times, we had a merit list that was there, not the examinations that go on right now, or entry examinations. So I missed it by 15 marks, but I'm glad I did it
Hmm.
because literature was my thing. And in
Right.
Pakistan, language is not the priority. At our times, now the normal is here, but say some 20 odd years ago, it was literature, and Punjab
Hmm.
University was the best uh, uh, degree that was considered at that time.
Hmm.
And it was natural. I think it came when after BSc I had a choice of going to any science department and be mediocre,
Hmm.
or by that time the people around me were convinced that I'm not a medical person, I'm not a science person, and or go to the literature side, and I picked the
Hmm.
literature, and that was the best choice that I ever did.
Hmm.
And then it further gave me an interest in literature, exploring our literature,
Hmm.
Urdu literature, what is the common grounds in it, what are the similarities, what are the differences. And then as after my degree in English literature, I got
Hmm.
Urdu literature. But the first job that I started was teaching literature
Hmm.
in college,
Okay.
uh, even before my result came.
Hmm.
And that was uh, that sort of made the ball rolling.
Hmm.
And then after my result like was announced, and then ComSets was here nearby, and I applied. But then
Hmm.
they picked me for teaching communication skills,
Hmm.
and from there the teaching of language started.
Hmm.
It was more or less like teaching training on job. You pick up things as you go,
Hmm.
and like from ComSets, I had received a scholarship of going abroad,
Hmm.
London.
Hmm.
There were few scholarships. Actually, I enrolled for MBA.
Hmm.
I didn't enroll for TESOL. But then sometime Providence has its own ways.
Hmm.
And when when the things were being finalized, I sort of down the list there was TESOL, teaching of English to the non-speakers of
Hmm.
or the students who have English as a second language. And I thought, why not? MBA is something that's like not in my frame of reference,
Hmm.
so why not go for that? And
Wow.
I sort of switched from MBA to TESOL.
Hmm.
And then the rest is history.
Hmm.
And it was a wonderful experience,
Hmm.
and it served me in my career as well, and sort of developed me. And one thing that I really liked about like TESOL was that the thing that I want to like point out here, we usually under a tremendous pressure of this language.
Hmm. Yeah.
There's tremendous pressure of it without knowing that we are the greatest contributor in this language.
Hmm.
So rather being on the side of being a little bit oh my God, I'm talking English, I'm talking, how will I do it? It should be
Hmm.
rather a sense of pride that the
Hmm.
non-speakers or the students as a second language
Hmm.
are actually contributing more to the language than the native
Hmm.
speakers.
Yeah, true,
So,
true.
as a matter of fact, to keep English alive, it's us who is doing that. So, we should be proud of it
Yeah,
rather than
true.
being a little bit scared of it.
Hmm. We are helping those
And
people out to flourish this language.
the first thing that I tell them, my students, is that keep that, get that fear off your head. The only thing that stops them from being a good speaker or a writer or anything is the fear, the hesitation. Get it off.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not the native speaker language anymore. It's an international language.
Yeah, true.
The world is communicating in it, and everyone should take its ownership. If
Hmm.
they will take its ownership, then they will be confident in it.
All right. First of all, we must say thanks to all those people who convinced you that you are not a scientist, you are not a doctor. And finally, we got a good teacher here. And secondly, just as you were talking
I
about,
actually convinced myself. I convinced myself and convinced other people that if I would
hmm.
have been a doctor, there would be a long list of casualties. So uh, it is a very good. It's a blessing in
Hmm.
disguise that I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, and this is also a blessing to have you guys as a teacher, mashallah.
Thank
And
you so much. Thank you.
also tell me, the way you were talking about English is not our, of course, it's not our native language, but still we are putting so much effort to learn it. So, what do you think is the exact importance of learning English in Pakistan? I mean, when you're going abroad, it's so easy to understand that we have to learn English because we would have to conversations with
Farhan,
people.
with that, I have my own theory that we, as such, are not the people who are who are considered to be the non-speakers,
All
or
right.
for with whom the English is taken as a foreign language. It's
Hmm.
not. It's our second language, because if we don't speak in it, we write in it. All the
Hmm.
official transactions are done in the language.
English.
If you're not fluent in speaking, we are fluent in writing. You
Hmm.
encounter so many people in your this practical spoken English sessions.
Hmm.
They are if you give them something to write or something, their exercises that will have something to write in it, you will
Hmm.
find very few mistakes. Sometimes it goes without mistake in it. They are
Hmm.
very well versed as far as written is concerned,
Hmm. True.
most of them. So English baseline is there.
Hmm.
And when you're conversing with them, and they are understanding what you're saying, like you are talking to them, and they don't have a blank face.
Hmm.
Mostly the
Yeah,
educated
true.
people I'm
They
talking
all
about,
understand at
they
least.
don't have.
Hmm.
Why?
Hmm.
Because they have that vocabulary bucket in their
Hmm.
in the back of their mind. If you start talking to them in Chinese, they won't understand a single word of it,
Hmm.
because there is
True.
no mutual vocabulary between you and the speaker. So the
Hmm.
vocabulary is there, and when the vocabulary is there, you treat them as a second, as a student of English who has second language in its hand.
Hmm.
First language is the native language. We are in a very culturally rich country. We sometimes have the set of two, three languages in our hand,
Hmm.
and at the same time we can write, understand, and few words of few sentences that the hesitation stops us from being fluent. We have the set of that thing as well. So when you are teaching English or spoken English, or like IELTS in the spoken session, you have to dig out uh, that vocabulary bucket that they have,
Hmm.
and make them apply it practically. And how you do it, how I do it in every class. In my class, Urdu or any other language is banned. I don't
Hmm.
even explain things in it. It's completely banned. You cannot, because without an atmosphere you cannot teach a language.
True.
And for an hour or so, the atmosphere of talking English should be there.
Hmm.
For that, it's very important. And one other few things that I tell them to do every day, because speaking or listening is a continuous process. You listen actively, you listen passively, you talk actively, like when you are particularly giving your opinion on something, and sometimes
Hmm.
you talk passively as well.
Hmm.
Okay, fine. You're talking,
Yeah.
half
True.
listening to something, right? and that is a continuous practice that you have to do. So there are things that they do the students do continuously,
Hmm.
uh, not like hours and hours of or thousands and thousands of practice tests will not help them. The thing that will help them is to continuous do it 15, 20, 30 minutes
All right.
every day,
Hmm.
and that will, and in within a month or so they will have this confidence that they will be able, they will uh, get away with their hesitation,
Hmm.
and they will be started talking in that particular language.
Hmm.
Then a cliche is there: think in English. Think in English is a conversation with yourself. It's not a
Hmm.
cliche, it's a very practical thing to do.
Hmm.
And for that we have certain tips and tricks to make your brain think. Like for instance, I have this activity that I used to do with my students when I was teaching them, especially communication skills to
Hmm.
MBAs. They have to give presentations and stuff, they have to read rigorously, and we had students that were like from the backgrounds that were mostly not very well versed in this particular language. So there were
Hmm.
certain tips and tricks that I had in my bag, and one of them was like sticky note technique.
Hmm.
What is that sticky note technique? You have to stick the sticky notes on any noun that you can see within your room,
Hmm.
wherever you are. Whenever you see that and the noun is written there, you'll read it and you'll learn by association. Next time, whenever you'll see that thing anywhere else,
Hmm.
the word that will come to you in your mind will be in English, not in
Hmm.
Urdu or any other language. And
Hmm.
then start making sentences of it in your mind,
That's good.
because you yourself are not judgmental of
Hmm.
yourself. You're in conversation with yourself when you're thinking, and when you're making sentences or anything, you're in conversation with yourself, so you're creating your own atmosphere.
True.
This technique helps, because then it sort of brings you in that English speaking atmosphere
Hmm.
more than you can even imagine, or anyone can
Hmm.
even imagine.
Good.
First, you have to push them. Okay, do it and tell me. Do it and
Hmm.
tell me. Next,
Hmm.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, they'll automatically start doing. This is how a child learns,
True.
right? You keep on telling them it's stable, it's stable, it's stable. Then you ask them what it is. Then he'll say it's a table,
Hmm.
right? This is how your brain works. And when we are kids, it is very active. When we grow older, then that part of the brain becomes a bit sluggish, but it's
Hmm.
not dead. You have to prick it to make it active.
Great. Just as there is a saying, charity begins at home.
Yeah.
Same as for language, this is the home.
Excuse.
So language also
Yeah.
begins at home. I mean, start thinking in English, and no one is observing you when you are inside your home. All right, great.
Yes. The biggest hesitation that you feel is like, what if I talk and people will laugh?
Hmm.
There's one incident video that made mm, uh, lot of scorn of people when boy was asked to speak some language in English, and then it was viral and everyone started talking about it.
Hmm.
And that was thing that I particularly didn't like. It shouldn't have been like that, because for some people it might be that we should be proud of our language, but for so many people it might be a scare that I might be like made fun of.
Hmm.
The fear that is already present in the mind, it
Hmm.
enhanced that. So first thing that one has to do away with language is the fear of it.
Hmm. Good. That's good. Okay, so just as you were saying that you are helping different people out about IELTS, about communication skills, and about English. So, what is the exact level of student that you usually deal with? Is it the basic, intermediate, or advanced?
Well, I have a mixed set sort of a thing,
Hmm.
because I have two foreigners with me. They are like pretty advanced. They are, um, as far as spoken is concerned or reading is concerned, I think they are in a very good level. But at an advanced level as well, as my study is, there are certain things that they miss out.
Hmm.
Like when you are very fluent at a thing, then you tend to be an overconfident person. And an overconfident person misses one thing I have noticed. They are not good listeners, not at all. An overconfident person thinks that, oh, he knows everything. And when you are not a good listener, especially in IELTS, There is a place where you
Hmm.
crash your score because oil is one go, right? And you have to write the answers. You have to be very active listeners for that. And for that, I have a technique that is, well, it's not my technique. It's actually Crystal's technique. I should not call it mine. It's called micro listening.
Hmm.
Micro listening means listen to day conversations and try and listen carefully where they are putting
Hmm.
stress, where they are putting, like they're punctuating it in their conversation,
Hmm.
what actually means, how different words are, like we call brother, but if you go to like London, they'll call you brother. The
Although, yeah.
brother is something like it's brother,
Hmm.
but you have to be familiar with that because the your examiner or the people who are taking IELTS will not shift to a neutral accent. They will have the same accent that they want you to come up to that. So for that, even very good students, I don't categorize them as like basic, advanced, or intermediate. Very good students tend to have these mistakes.
Hmm.
So for that, they have to go through those exercises again and again. Like I don't mean that some tests are given. There are some few apps that I give to the students to practice. Actively try to actively listen 5 to 10 minutes to anything, any broadcast, any
Hmm.
song. Songs are especially the English songs. We take the beat of it, but we never don't know the lyrics of it.
Hmm.
So have that like the karaoke the thing going on when the lyrics are there and the
Hmm.
song is playing. You're having two skills at the same time. The cognitive skills are same time like activating your reading and your listening and your understanding. So that sort of gives you the active listener listening exercise.
Hmm.
Do for my students, I think I always tell them to pick something that interests you. Interest makes people focused.
Hmm.
Whatever you do with interest, you're focused, and focus is the first step of active listening. And this active listening, this practice every day in, day in, day out, till the day of their examination, makes them so like comfortable with it that that whatever is going on, it's automatically transferred. You know, when your listening skills, why I do this active listening practice with the students, because there are two things going on when you are listening. You're listening to it, looking at your the questions and answering them simultaneously.
Hmm.
And that active skill, the next step that I take with my students who really want to get good score is the are the audiobooks with the
Hmm.
hard copy. They listen to it, they read it,
Good.
whatever. Uh, the audiobooks are like they have the expressions with them too. So
Hmm.
after this active listening practice, one or two audiobooks, reading it aloud, listening to it and reading it out aloud, that helps three of the skills:
Hmm.
listening, reading, and speaking.
Hmm.
Not just reading won't do, just listening the audiobook won't do. All three skills combined will will sharpen their skills.
Hmm.
And with IELTS, you don't know what they are up to.
Yeah. True.
They can come up with anything.
Hmm.
In even in reading part, sometimes there are visual comprehensions and the questions associated with it. So with IELTS, if you want them, my aim is never like to get them through 6.5, or failing is not in my like frame of mind.
Hmm. Hmm.
It isn't. It's never been.
That's great.
So like getting four or something, I don't think like that. For me, it has to be 7 plus. And that's how I just get down with my students. Give my
Hmm.
best
All
and
right.
then leave to God the rest. That's why I tell my students, you have to work with me. I'm a
Yeah.
terrible grinder of like, I'll push you to the limit. And
Hmm.
then if you can go along, it's fine. If you
Hmm.
don't, so think before you jump in my boat.
That's great. And what I mean, just as whenever there's an IELTS instructor, so of course he's master in all these four skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. What exactly is your cup of tea that you feel like I feel really comfortable whenever I'm teaching speaking or might be reading? So, what is your cup of tea out of these four modules?
What actually, because of my literature background, what actually I love,
Hmm.
the way of expression. It's well, it's very hard to pick because
Hmm.
all these four skills are very close to me. I cannot go to bed without reading something. I'm an old school, fashion school.
Hmm.
Like I cannot do that. I have to read something before nap, before
Hmm.
going to sleep.
Hmm.
Um, I like I watch movies. I listen to things. I'm a good listener as well.
Hmm.
I like people giving out their thoughts. Uh, I'd been a public speaker throughout
Hmm.
my college, uni days, and speaking is also something that's real fun, but something that's very close to my heart, and I love doing that. Is writing, I think,
Hmm.
because that's something that I had been involved in, not only as teaching, but there was a time when I used to write good poetry. Then I left. It doesn't didn't come to me that much. Then prose or particularly essay type things.
Hmm.
I use after like poetry. The way of expression that I had was to write on different topics, different things, different social issues. So writing in that part was very fun, and because it's long lasting as well, you can revisit them after years. You
Hmm.
find your old things, and then the whole thing comes back to you. Be- Probably because of its longevity, because of its always at hand. Never, you don't have to make an occasion for
Hmm.
it. You just have to have a paper and a pen. And I'm not a computer sort of as I told you, I'm an old school.
Hmm.
So I more familiar with paper, pen, my
Hmm.
diaries and stuff where I jot down
Hmm.
notes. So I
It
think
all.
writing is
Hmm.
more close to me because I love it, to
Hmm.
write, but to teach wherever the area is weak.
Hmm.
It's I love to teach the students who are weak in that particular area because they need my help more
Hmm. Good.
than the students who are already in some uh, advanced level. Teaching a very good student is never that much of a challenge
Hmm.
than teaching a student who's struggling with something.
Hmm.
Helping that struggling kid, I think it
Is the real
gives me
challenge of a
more of
teacher. Hmm.
satisfaction. Well,
Hmm.
students are like my kids. They
Hmm.
are, I developed, because I told you teaching is my passion. Doesn't matter if whatever age they are.
Hmm.
I have a strong uh, band bond with my students,
Hmm.
because I know they are here because they want help in certain situation.
Hmm.
And if I'm capable of helping them
Hmm.
in whatever manner I can, that gives me tremendous feeling of achievement.
Great.
So it's not, I cannot pick, and especially with IELTS. With me, IELTS is a sort of cyclone. It's an all-round thing that we are developing at the same time:
Hmm.
speaking, listening, um, uh, reading, writing. It's especially the listening and the speaking part of it. It's
Hmm.
every day, whenever I'm in the class, it's a 45 to an hour a session of listening and speaking,
Hmm.
whatever I'm teaching. In IELTS, in listening part, there is one part which is related to schools and colleges, the way teacher teaches and the way, and then there are questions and answers of it. So you cannot, Farhan, with me, with my experience, if a person has done like 100 listening tests 3-4 days before, a week before the IELTS examination, he won't have 4.5, more than 4.5. But
Hmm.
if he has a continuous practice of it,
Hmm.
then it will be a commonplace thing.
Yeah.
He knows I take them at any spur of the moment. I take them to task. Okay, what were we talking about? What is happening? How will we go about it?
Hmm.
This is an They are active in the class at that particular moment, actively listening,
Hmm.
and that active listening helps them a long way. So I cannot pick and choose, especially for IELTS.
Hmm.
I have to develop 4 skills,
Yeah.
and for 4 skills, you have to give them a practical demonstration of that they do, uh, like practically themselves. That's
Right.
where my science so-called background helps. We have theory and we have practicals. Theory just tells you this thing happens when, but when the thing happens in a test tube,
Hmm.
it's fascinating. Oh my
Hmm.
God, this is happening. It's changing the color. Reading it and seeing it is two different things. So, uh, telling something about someone about something and letting them do it, okay,
Hmm.
fine, do it,
Are two different
is
things.
another thing,
Yeah. Good.
right?
All.
So,
Hmm.
pick and choose, it's very difficult
Okay. Well,
because
so
everything is connected.
uh, I got it. Like, your strength is the real weakness of the student. So whenever, whatever area student feel weaknesses, so you jump
Yeah.
in and you help him out to go, him or her might be, to get out of that. So you were
We had an exercise going on, I asked my students to make a video of them, like imitating some mentor, some person, some native speaker, and send it to me.
Mhm.
After 4, 5, 6, 7 videos or 8 videos, now I can pinpoint the areas of their improvement.
Hmm.
They've been imitating someone for for 10, 12 days. Improvement is also there, but now there are areas of improvement that I can pinpoint. You
Hmm.
cannot do it with 1 or 2 or 3 sittings. You have to have
Definitely.
the record of it, analyze it, and then work on that.
Hmm.
Especially for spoken part, you have to be subtle with it.
Hmm.
Look, you're not pronouncing these words correctly. That's wrong. He will stop pronouncing them at all.
Hmm.
So you have to be subtly giving them the feedback. Okay, fine. Like it's development. It's not development. It's development.
Hmm.
Then the thing will get down and digested. It's not surprise. It's pride, and the
Hmm.
things will go down. Right.
Just as you were saying that you consider all of your students as your kids, and it's very common in IELTS teaching and in our communication teaching that most of our students are older than us. It's very common. And one more thing, and in fact, it's going to be the last thing for this session. That's how do you teach grammar? And is it compulsory that you have to teach grammar to all the student whosoever takes your course? Or because grammar is something that students take, it's very cliche because schools have done or might be are the way they have studied the grammar already, they have destroyed the purpose of learning it. Just as you were saying that in your classes you create 100% English environment. So the worst thing we were doing in our education system was we were trying to teach grammar with the help of with the translation method, which is just not helpable. So how do you take grammar? Do you teach that to all the student, or that depends on the need of the student?
Actually, my teaching, because it's not mine. My professor in London, Dr. Tim, he was actually how to teach grammar to the students of the student who are learning it as a second language, or for foreigners.
Hmm.
Basically, my emphasis was the second language students.
All right.
Farhan, the basic thing is that they have that baseline.
Hmm.
You have to teach them applied,
Hmm.
right? You don't have to go to the to like indefinite tense or continuous or perfect tense and teach them that this is how it happens. But teach them applied the way it's been applied, I have certain exercises with me, and then they have to pick and choose the right answer of it and then feed it. The wrong ones, then I point out, okay, fine, you don't use SNE or ES with the with the
Word.
verb when it is singular, plural. Point it out when you find a mistake, and then you have to give those MCQs or the quick respond questions to everyone. And practically there is no exception of advanced and intermediate and base when you are committing stupid mistakes as far as grammar is concerned.
Hmm.
There is no exception.
Hmm.
So start from the basic. And with me, I always go from easy to difficult.
Great.
I never come from difficult to easy. It's
Hmm.
always easy to difficult. I start from this is a boy, this is a girl, and go to the complex and compound complex sentences. With
Hmm.
IELTS, I never go to compound complex sentences. No three, four clauses, two dependent, three dependent, one independent clause. I never go there because
Hmm.
it's not required, not in writing, not in reading, not in listening, not in speaking.
All right.
The sentences with commas and two, right? They are required in maybe academic English when you are doing English language masters,
Hmm.
TEFL or TESOL,
Hmm.
probably literature, but not
Hmm.
in IELTS.
All
With
right.
me, what I have experienced and with my experience with Chris, uh, IELTS is about being clear.
Hmm.
That's a cliche that I've developed. It's about being clear. It's
Hmm.
not about being difficult.
Hmm.
They want your clear cut opinion on certain things. How, what is communication? They are
Hmm.
judging your communication skills basically.
Yeah.
What is communication? Communication is sending your message and receiving a feedback. Your message
True.
is thoroughly understood, and the person gives you the feedback. Okay, fine. Then the communication process
But
completes,
not to make it
and that's
complicated
what
for
they are looking
yourself.
for.
Yeah. Hmm.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not with your spoken skills, not with your written skills.
Hmm. True.
Be like I tell them, be good, but not difficult.
Great. Well, well, ma'am, that
Like
is
for
it.
vocabulary,
Well,
especially.
ma'am, that is it for today. If there would be further questions from the student, from the audience, from the viewers for you, we are gonna arrange another interview for you. But till then, this is going to be it for today.
Inshallah.
Well, thank you so very much for your time, ma'am.
Thank you
And
so
hope
much.
we hope that this journey would be
Thank you.
for the both of us benefit, for the organization and also for your benefit, inshallah. All right, ma'am. Take care.
Inshallah.
Take
Inshallah.
care. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.
You too. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Allah
you.
Hafiz.
Thank you.